So I finally watched Spider-Man No Way Home. It was a movie that I had wanted to watch in theaters, but then I put it off because, this was during COVID. And I was like, do I really want to go to a movie theater and maybe get COVID? Because there might be some dipshit that ends up going there that knows they have COVID, or someone who doesn't know they have COVID. So, all these years later, in 2026, I have finally watched Spider Man No Way Home for the first time. And I thought it was pretty good. I was not like a huge fan, and the ending actually made me like Tom Holland's Spider Man. For those of you who don't know, I've never really been a Tom Holland fan. I thought he was pretty decent in Civil War, and then I just didn't really care for him in his own movies. Um, he just wasn't Spider Man to me. Tobey Maguire always felt like the perfect Peter Parker to me. Andrew Garfield felt like the perfect Spider Man. And there's a lot of other good Spider Mans like Josh Keaton or, the one from the PS4 game. There's just a lot of very talented people that have played Spider Man. And Tom Holland, I have nothing against him as a person. He just doesn't really feel like Spider-Man to me. He's probably the one that looks the most like Spider-Man. Like, uh, you know, out of costume wise, he looks like straight out of a comic book. But anyway, let's talk about the actual movie. So the plot of this movie obviously takes place after Far From Home, with Jake Gyllenhaal's character Mysterio had revealed Spider-Man's true identity to the world and claimed that Peter Parker murdered him. They go through this really quick. It's probably about the first 10 minutes that they're just like, oh yeah, he's found not guilty. They can't prove that he killed Mysterio. Like, they still show that, yeah, there's some people that do believe he killed Mysterio, but there's also people who don't. It's very mixed. But, like the actual struggle of him maybe going to jail, I feel like is breezed through way too fast. It really undercuts that, in my opinion. Matt Murdock makes a cameo here, Daredevil. I believe this is the first time he would have appeared in the MCU officially. Obviously they bought the rights, and technically the Netflix TV show is 3 seasons as MCU now. But this would have been the first time. Echo would have been the second. And you know, then She-Hulk and Daredevil Born Again. But anyway, yeah, it was cool to see him here, but it's just like oh, this guy kind of thing. He doesn't really do much besides that one scene. So then Doc Ock is the first one to appear, because if you didn't know, if it wasn't obvious by this poster, they decide to bring back almost all the villains from Tobey and Andrew's movies. There are some exceptions. Topher Grace's Venom from Spider-Man 3 does not make a return, and Dane DeHaan's Green Goblin from Amazing Spider-Man 2 does not make a return. James Franco obviously also is not in this movie because he's a piece of shit and his career has pretty much tanked. But I mean, he did die as like a good guy or whatever, so it makes sense that he's not here. But at the same time, when Doctor Strange says that people are being brought here, they're people that just know Peter Parker is Spider-Man. So I'm kind of surprised they didn't bring back, somebody who knows Peter Spider-Man, like MJ from the Tobey movies, or Emma Stone, Gwen Stacy from the Amazing Spider-Man movies. We could have had like a sweet moment with them because she knows he's Spider-Man. They were like, oh yeah, people that know Peter Spider-Man are the ones being brought here, and it's only villains. It would have been cool to just maybe have one of them here. But, maybe they declined to come, or they just didn't think of that. One little nitpick I have is also Electro being here for some reason. Because at least in the movie he's in, I really feel like, because I've seen that movie so many times, they don't imply that Electro knows Peter is Spider-Man at all. Some people have tried to defend it online, saying, well, he was absorbing Oscorp data, he put two and two together. But the movie never even says that he did. And they also try and say that he died in Amazing Spider-Man 2, which I thought he was just like temporarily absorbed or something like that. Like, I didn't think he died in that movie. But he has a line in this movie about, holy shit, I was about to die. So I guess he died in Amazing Spider-Man 2. They are deciding to cure all the villains in this movie before sending them back. And that's another thing I don't like about this movie, is the portrayal of William Dafoe's Green Goblin. He just doesn't feel like the character you know in Tobey's Spider-Man 1. He gives an excellent performance. He has some really good, memorable lines in the brief screen time he has. But they decide that the way his character is going to be written in this movie is he's a character who doesn't want to be Green Goblin. Green Goblin in the comics, and I'm pretty sure in Tobey's movie, though it's been a little while since I've seen it, has always been like a piece of shit. Like, even before he's Green Goblin. The Green Goblin serum just made him worse. And they say in this movie that, like, oh, he's actually a good guy, and the Goblin serum just corrupted him. And he basically has, like, a personality disorder in this movie, like Two-Face or something. But he's not portrayed like that at all in Spider-Man 1. He's just very, very evil throughout the entire movie. Near the end, he tries to manipulate Spider-Man by saying, Peter, wait, no, stop. And then he beats up Peter. Like, it's not him actually like, oh, Norman's taking control. He's just manipulating Peter because he's a piece of shit. But in this movie, they're like, oh no, Norman is sometimes a good guy, sometimes a bad guy, but he can't control when that happens. And it's just so fucking stupid to me. Like, that is not his character at all. It's just so weird. They could have just easily had it been Norman's pretending to be a good guy and claiming that he doesn't know when he turns into Green Goblin. But no, they decide that they're going to give him like a sympathetic kind of villain arc. It's so fucking stupid. I don't like it at all. And he ends up killing Aunt May in this movie. And it's just kind of lame. I don't even really see how it killed her. I get the blade is sharp and it's killed people before in the Tobey movies, but just the way it happens in this movie feels like maybe it would give her a pretty bad scratch, but not a way to actually kill her. But it does. Aunt May dies in this movie. Toby and Andrew don't get to do too much here. They show up about an hour and 30 minutes in, probably, in this movie that is about 2 hours long. But, you know, this is Tom Holland's movie, not theirs. So I understand that. And I don't hate that. The only thing I dislike is, you know, the fact that they brought back Electro, even though he didn't really know Spider-Man was Peter Parker. I mean, he even has a line, which other people have also defended, that, oh, he meant this is what he used to believe before he knew Peter was Spider-Man. But he has this line about how he thought that Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man was black. And it's a kind of a funny scene, but if he thought that, then I don't think he should really be here. Because that means he doesn't know who Peter is. Lizard and Sandman by far get the least to do in this movie, though. The movie mainly takes focus on, Green Goblin and Doc Ock. Even though Green Goblin doesn't really get to do that much. He disappears for quite a while. And same goes for Doc Ock. This movie just, it's kind of all over the place, but it's not terrible. I felt like they handled it pretty well with how many characters they had. You know, there's just characters disappearing left and right in this movie. So, you know, Lizard, I would have liked to see him more, because Lizard has always been one of my favorite characters ever since I was a kid. Like, he was one of my first toys when I was like 8 years old. I've always loved Lizard, and then I was super happy when, you know, I saw the trailer for Amazing Spider-Man as a kid, and Lizard was in it. My favorite villain's gonna be the first villain in this new series. And in this movie, he really just doesn't do much. He sits in a van. That's what he does. And occasionally he says like funny, crazy things, like how he wants to turn people into lizards, and people make fun of him for it. Um, he does help during the Green Goblin fight with Tom Holland. He's like, I told you there'd be consequences, and he throws him back into a window for Green Goblin to keep beating him up. And then he has like a somewhat tense scene where he's trying to attack Ned and MJ. And that's pretty much all he does in this movie. He gets cured, and he just gets sent back, even though like the original Amazing Spider-Man ended with him being cured, so I guess he was taken before he was cured. Obviously, Tom Holland's Spider-Man wouldn't know that he was cured at the end of the events of the movie, but Andrew would. He even says so as much. I've cured Connors before, I can do it again, and he makes a cure. I don't know why they don't just send him back, because he's gonna get cured. This isn't like the other people. It's so stupid. Um, uh, the actor for Lizard and Sandman also have a bit of a reason why they're not here as much. It's because of COVID restrictions, so all their stuff was like sent in via video recording. So their entire performance here is just CGI. He never really appears as himself until he's cured, and it's clearly just reused footage from Amazing Spider-Man 1. Same for Thomas Hayden Church's Sandman. He is just a sand creature for the entire movie until he's cured, and it's clearly when he's being cured, it's the scene where like Spider-Man beats the shit out of him in the subway, and he gets turned into water and shit. It's very obvious. And then, the ending is what made me finally accept Tom Holland's Spider-Man as Spider-Man. So he ends up deciding, for the better good, that people need to forget who he is, including his own friends. That is the only way to save the day. And he wants to originally decide to, convince MJ and Ned that they are his friends, that he knows them. They may not remember him, but he knows them. But he sees that mainly MJ, but they're both having a good life. And he doesn't want to change that. And that is Peter Parker, because I have read countless Spider-Man comic books over the years. He's one of my favorite characters. I go to the library all the time, and Spider-Man, Batman, Spider-Man 2099, Miles. There's a lot of people I read, but Spider-Man is one of the ones I read the most. And him deciding to not tell MJ and Ned that he is Spider-Man, that he's someone they know, that he's Peter Parker, that they may not remember him, but he's their best friend, is one of the most non-selfish things you can do. To lose your own friends when you know you can try and convince them. That is something Peter Parker would do. Choose other people's happiness over his own. And that made me like Tom Holland's Spider-Man. And that actually makes me happy to see his next movie. Because I've never wanted to be a Tom Holland hater. I just didn't like the way he was portrayed. I don't want to hate a character that's being portrayed on screen. I do want to like these characters, but I just wasn't a fan. And finally, after watching this movie, I'm a fan. And I can't wait for Spider-Man Brand New Day.